everybody. This is Elle Nagy from the Unapologetic Women Empowerment Dynasty, and you're listening to the Unapologetic Women podcast, the show for women who choose to live their legacies unleashed, unlimited, and unapologetic. If this is a space you're curious about, visit unapologetic-women.com. Today we're talking about the elder way with Harriet Tubman Wright. Harriet is an accomplished speaker, storyteller, published author, poet, person-centered expressive arts facilitator, metaphysician, initiated priestess, and elder. She guides mature spiritual women to fulfill their passion so they can live healthy, purposeful, prosperous lives, doing what they most love to serve others. She also guides them to develop revolutionary leadership skills to help heal people and the planet. Elder Harriet connects with business, professional and cultural groups through transformational talks on feminine leadership, soul power, and holistic health, captivating audiences with humor and wisdom. She is a natural leader, seasoned professional, and your guide to be fulfilled and free. Thanks for joining us. This is Elder Harriet. So here you are in front of me, looking extraordinarily regal and wise and beautiful.
Thank you.
And I want to say, first of all, thank you for saying yes to this conversation. Thank you for going really deep in our very first meeting conversation. And one of the most beautiful life experiences that I'm receiving right now is when truly unapologetic and open-hearted women come together. There really is no more judgment and shaming, and nothing is off the table. It gets to be such a rich conversation from a space of wonder and curiosity and just really wanting to experience life through the other person instead of thinking we have to convince each other of something. So thank you for that, Harriet. I'm so grateful that you're here today.
I'm grateful to be here. And as you were talking, I'm thinking the word authenticity. To be truly authentic, to be real, to be who we are as deeply as we choose to be.
Yes. I did a post last week and I said I've never vibrated harmonically with the whole vulnerability conversation and movement. Because for me, it's not a strength. And I think that when we start telling everybody to be vulnerable, we're really asking them to come from a space of feeling vulnerable, of feeling insecure. And I want to start a movement of let's have a real conversation. Let's just be real, because that's what they're really referring to. But then they say we're vulnerable when we're real. And I go, no, we're really strong when we choose to be real, when we choose to be authentic. Because when we choose to be authentic, we don't need to be applauded, received, accepted, anything, because it's about us. It's about our relationship with ourselves. And if that is good, that's not vulnerable. That's extraordinarily strong. And so when we get to be real, and why not? Because I think a lot of us have gone through enough life experience to go, well, we faked it and we didn't make it. So the alternative is let's be real instead, because we're going to be judged. And some people are going to love us and some people are going to hate us. Some people are going to praise us and some people are going to, try and break us down. Whatever the case might be, I'd rather have my relationship with myself right than my relationship with other people, and allowing them to have the same experience for themselves.
I think that we can go to that place when we mature, when we get to a place where, maybe the children are grown, and we're becoming, in this country, seniors, in other countries, elders. And so at that point, it doesn't matter what you think or do or say, because I'm going to be me, unapologetically me.
Yes. I heard a joke the other day. My partner was telling me, it's like, yeah, my grandfather used to say, there's nothing more dangerous than an old person, because by then they don't care how much time they spend in jail, because it's not going to be a very long time. I was like, that is so true. So, darling, you have been through quite a life experience, and we're going to get into the senior versus elder conversation today. I'd really like to go there, but always love starting this podcast with the question of all questions, and that is, what does it mean to you to be an unapologetic woman?
What does it mean to me to be an unapologetic woman? It means for me to be authentic. It means for me to be truthful. It means for me to be free to be who I am in that moment and every moment thereafter. No manipulation, no trying to do it a particular way. I'm doing, there was that song, My Way, doing my way. I'm not a singer, that I'm
Oh,
not.
Frankie,
But the
baby.
point is to be truthfully who I am, from my heart, my spirit, my soul. And the creator, the ancestors are all within me, and therefore they are guiding, supporting, protecting me no matter what. So I can be unapologetic and no holds barred.
And I love that you say in the moment and in the moment and in the moment. I think one of the most frustrating parts of my journey, especially as a business owner, and in the online space where everything is about the brand, is that everybody goes, you have to be predictable, Elle. You can't constantly keep changing, Elle. And I would go, but I am all of it. Like Mother Nature, I am the storm and the sunshine. I am the rain and the rainbow. I am the dryness and I am the flood. I feel as women, there is an expectation for us to show up in a certain way. You have to have a certain style, and you have a certain this and a certain that, which is all about other people. It's all about making other people more comfortable around us. But we are so deep, and we there's such a richness to us when we just give ourselves permission to go, right now I can be really grounded and I can be really serene, and in the next moment I can be wild and dancing and giving, and then I can laugh out loud and I can howl in pain. And all of that gets to be embraced because I'm being real in the moment with where I'm at and what I'm feeling right now.
As you were saying that, I was thinking of a time. I've always loved piano players, and there was a woman who played at a place that was called Solomon Grundy's, and she had this big tip jar, of it all, and I'd stay for both sets. And if it was a full moon, this was out by the bay, and so if there was a full moon, I'd be going home and I'd let the windows down and I'd go, whoop, whoop, howling at the moon. I'd just be laughing because I could be free enough to howl at the full moon.
I taught my children from very early on to howl. And people used to look at us really funny, especially when I got a mini convertible And when we were happy, we would all howl. And they had those little voices and they go, and we would howl with the roof down because it was just so joyful in an expression. I love howling. I think it's one of the most liberating, beautiful experiences a woman can have. That and dancing nude. So absolutely love that. Now, darling, I do want to have a conversation around the senior versus elder concepts in modern day society. I am blessed in that I come from Africa and we have a very different experience of the elders versus in the white culture, the seniors. Whereas the elders is revered for wisdom, is revered for leadership, is revered for guidance of the community, and seniors are past their sell-by dates. They don't have much use for society anymore and are put in old age homes and care facilities, and for the most part forgotten.
It's interesting how you describe, because of course in the United States, when we're 65, we get this card from ARP that says, okay, you're a senior, so therefore you're entitled to these discounts. And I can remember before I was officially a senior, I had gone to what we call McDonald's, because they keep their bathrooms clean. And I said, oh, I should buy something. And when the woman, I got some tea and she gave me the price, and I said, oh, and she says, well, it's Senior Tuesday. And I said, well, thank you very much. And after that, of course, I always ask for the senior discount, and no one ever questioned I would have the senior discount. And as I have become an initiated elder, because what you described is exactly what I learned when I lived in the different countries in Africa, in Burkina Faso, in Kenya, and then the work in Zimbabwe. An elder is revered, is respected, is looked to by the entire community for his or her wisdom. And the elders are closest to the ancestors, and we have to be, or we ought to be, or it's good to be in touch and in communication with our ancestors, because we will be ancestors as well. But what are the lessons? And those lessons come through the revered elder who understands his or her place within the community. It's not a singular, oh, I'm a senior, I get a senior discount when I go to the store. The elder has to do with relationship with community, and we are serving our community. The other thing I will say is that adolescents have rites of passage. The boys go off and have to do something, and the girls go off and have to do something, but they go together. And so in the recent rite of passage that I participated in, elder rite of passage, there were a group of us. There were 10 women who went through a process together before the actual rite of passage, and now afterwards. So we are bonded in a way that I don't think any other kind of experience would have provided. We are family. We belong to one another, and we belong to our communities.
When I was doing a lot of research and work with regards to the archetypal energies of our worlds, one of the things that I discovered was just how much is being lost in Western culture by the abolishment of the rite of passage. Because on the one hand, we say it's cruel and it's too much and it's this and that. But the purpose of the rite of passage was the death and the birth. The death of the child and the birth of the man, or the death of the girl and the birth of the woman. And it's due to the loss of this rite of passage that we are finding the child archetype, the fear archetype of the child, is so prevalent in today's society in adults, because they've lost the rite of passage, and so they've lost the initiation into adulthood. I feel that right now there is a gift in so much being available to people on the internet. I feel that there is everything is a double-edged sword, right? Everything has good and bad consequences. So even though there's so much available for people to study on the internet and to get their pieces of paper on the internet and all of that, there is a loss in the depth of the experience of learning, the depth of the experience of learning, because learning is experienced. So even though we can get knowledge from our teachers, the knowledge has to be experienced in life for wisdom to be created. And I feel like that is what a rite of passage really is. And that's why that process is long and it is arduous, and there is a deep bond that forms with people through that forging of the fire, which is being lost in the ease of modern certification. Let's call it that. And for the most part, people don't even want to be certified in anything anymore, due to all other kinds of reason. And I'm not making one right and the other wrong. I'm just having a look objectively at what is being gained and what is being lost. Why did you choose to go through a rite of passage to become an elder instead of just merrily living as a senior in your country?
Again, it was because of my experiences in Africa, and the ways, whenever we would go to a village, of course, we were feasted. We were welcome, and there was a feast, and then there were words from the elders, and I witnessed and experienced the respect and the reverence for an elder. And our former minister is 92, and she recently spent time in Ghana. And I remember the first time she went, and the people would say, "Oh, mama, oh, mama." And her attitude was, "I didn't come over here to be anybody's mama." And she would say that because some of the younger women, they were having dates with these men and what. But they were demonstrating their respect. "Ah, mama," with her gray hair. And now I think that she, having spent that time in Ghana, she has a community there, and she really understands and appreciates what it means to be old mama, that kind of thing. And I chose to be that because I felt to participate in this rites of passage, because I felt that I've been around, I have much to share, and I want to share it in the context of having lived on Mother Earth, with Mother Earth, for this many years. And it is my duty to give back. It is my duty to serve in the ways that you allow me to be of service. And one of those things is sharing the stories of how I've lived the good, the bad, and the ugly of it in a way that hopefully informs choices that you may choose to make. So again, I think it is really about taking on a position of responsibility. Certainly it is a position of responsibility. And it is a responsibility of that lifelong learner teacher. And I mean, we laughed and played and, you know, compare notes of our experiences as elders. And so even among ourselves, I mean, we're learning from one another and getting advice about, well, you know, when it's time for you to wear depends, or when it's time for da 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 da, you know. And so it's a beautiful kind of sisterhood, let me put it that way, a sisterhood of elders.
I love how you say we have a responsibility to be the lifelong learner and teacher. I was just on the soiree call, and one of the things that we were talking about is how people are just constantly sharing on social media as they are living. It's literally everything that I'm doing right now is getting to be shared. And how some of us are choosing to be a little bit more discerning in kind of
Yeah.
living through something and then sharing the wisdom gained from the life, and not necessarily needing to share the story, because I think people become very hooked on the drama of stories at the moment. They just want the story, they're missing out on the wisdom. And we were talking about my in particular resistance to being a teacher in years past. I'm like, I don't want to be a teacher. I just want to coach people. Da, 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 da. And they're going, no, no, no. But I have a responsibility to teach. I have a responsibility to share my wisdom, because our society is being formed right now collectively by a very passionate youth. Sharing their learnings, but they have not been tempered with life experience yet. And so there's a need for elders to take responsibility. And for me, it's a case of, are we just feeling intimidated by all the tech that we have to learn at the moment in order for us to teach more people or more effectively? Or is that just an excuse that we are using? Because I don't believe that any of us are living at this time in the wrong time. Like, we can't say I wasn't born for this time, I was born for the dark ages, because, well, you're here. Therefore, you were born for this time. And do you feel that maybe there is a lack of responsibility in seniors to step up as being elders in the general population, or are you experiencing it differently?
As you were speaking, I was thinking about how so many seniors, elders, have grandchildren, and so it forced them, you know, to learn how to use this thing. And because that's the only way that they would be able to communicate with their grandchildren who might be physically distant, and they couldn't, you know, they couldn't visit. And I think I've said this before, studying with Malidoma and Sobonfu Some, who are from Burkina Faso. Malidoma said it is the role of the grandparent to remind the grandchild of their purpose. And the point is, we all come into the world with a purpose. Some of us figure it out before we leave, and some of us don't. But when he said that, and I observed the relationship between my son and his grandfather, and how important that relationship was for both of them, because it certainly extended my father's life and it enriched my son's life. And, to recognize, okay, it is the role of the grandparent to remind the child of their purpose. That is just precious. That is so, so precious. Um, and so in the same way, it is my responsibility to share and to be open to the things that I have to learn from younger people that isn't just limited to technology, because younger people bring so much more to the table. Presumably they will be here longer and things are going to look very different next year than they look now. And the way the education system is, reducing. I mean, what are you creating? I mean, if we're talking about consciousness shifts and maintaining some form of human life, because Mother Earth and Mother Nature will be here whether we are. The question really is, how are we as human beings being with one another and with Mother Earth and Mother Nature to evolve to whatever the next stage is?
The word being comes to me so often. It is that human being instead of the human doing. But there's also the human and the being, the human and the soul coming together. And I love how you are bringing another layer in. How are we being with each other? And sadly, I'm observing that we're not being with each other, and we're not being with Mother Earth for the most part. We were talking before the call about my trip to Australia. And one of the conversations I had with my partner afterwards was his observation of how I talk to people, how I talk to everybody who has the misfortune of coming along my path, whether I'm standing in a queue and starting to talk to the person next to me, or handing my plane ticket to the lady in the front and really making eye contact with her and talking to her, and watching how other people aren't. They're not making eye contact, they're not greeting each other, they'll get into a lift together without saying words, like without making it's as though we're scared of being with each other and being to each other. Whether that's due to conditioning or bad life experiences or whatever, I have compassion for that. And we get to choose to have it differently, right? Change starts with us.
Go ahead.
How are you experiencing that? And how are you choosing to be with others and be with Mother Earth?
I'm smiling because I've been pulling weeds. We get lots and lots of rain. And so there are lots and lots of weeds.
Yeah.
And so pulling weeds is one way, but I would say a way that I enjoy it, or taking walks through the forest, or taking walks along the bay, along the water. And I really love taking pictures of trees at different seasons of the year. I really, really enjoy that. And there are times when I've looked under a rock, and if I didn't see anything, then I felt comfortable to sit on the rock. There have been times when I've hugged the trees, and you'd be amazed at how wise these beings are if you spend enough time with the trees or the rocks or any aspect of nature. You're going to learn some lessons. You really are. I mean, of course, it's about being open, It just be about being quiet and being open. And I just think that there are so many opportunities to learn from Mother Earth and to learn from Mother Nature. And because when we abuse either, we are abusing ourselves. We are really, and that is not my idea of a healthy future. A healthy future for me is, one where we obviously we talk about peace, but we talk about justice. We talk about harmony and balance and order and truth. I mean, these are principles of my aunt. But this to me is the ideal. This is what I work toward or strive toward, work with others around. How do we come together collectively, collaboratively to shift what is going on so that we evolve into whatever the next level is that enables us to live in peace with one another.
And I think it's choosing to consciously evolve, because we are always evolving.
Absolutely.
Evolution
Absolutely.
is eternal and it is happening. But
Absolutely.
there's power in consciously evolving. There's power
Yeah.
in consciously working towards a vision that extends beyond us. My partner often says to me, "Why are you getting involved in this thing? It has nothing to do with you." And I go, "Well, because I'm living my legacy. I am creating the world I desire for my great grandchildren and great great grandchildren. And I do
Mhm.
believe I get to come back. So I am creating the world I want to come back to, not
Mhm.
the world that I'm leaving behind."
Okay. Okay.
and
Okay.
and for me, that was a powerful connection to, we can't just focus on what's happening now. We have to intentionally choose to be the change that we want to see for the future.
Yes.
And it takes gumption, it takes tenacity, and it takes a willingness for people to think that we are crazy, because we do speak of peace when everybody is so focused on war. We do speak of the health of Mother Earth when everybody is so focused on everything that's wrong with her. But what
Mhm.
they don't understand is that if we are not audacious enough to hold that vision and
Yes.
intentionally be that person, then nothing changes for our future generations. And that's why I say I don't want to leave a legacy. I want to live a legacy. I want to be the change I desire for the future. And that's is what I feel is needed in more elders, because we've lived enough pain, we've lived through enough wars, we've lived through enough fear, we've lived through enough loss for us to
Mhm.
go, this is actually really important. Like,
Mhm. No, I agree with what you're saying, and I'm reminded of indigenous people here who talk about 7 generations. So I know that people in their 20s, 30s have a vested in more of a vested interest in the future. And that's why when I say working collaboratively, collectively, I am talking about the wisdom of the elders and the wisdom of younger people who want a a future that is, yes, conscious evolution, absolutely, but that is, I can't stop saying that, one of peace. And there's no justice without peace, there's no peace without justice. And whatever that means, but I think there's a role and an opportunity for all of us to co-create what it is we want to step into have our grandchildren and great grandchildren step into, and as you say, and when I come back, because you'll be coming back through those great grandchildren.
Exactly. What made you decide to go on the journey of becoming an elder?
The age that I am.
So I know that there must be more to it, because there's a lot of seniors who don't choose to go through the initiation, who don't choose to actively.
I think because I part of it is because I felt I had a responsibility. You know, I've been around this many years, having had the global kinds of experiences that I've had. There's a responsibility to give back, and to give back as what I hope is a respected elder, which is very different than being a senior. I don't knock any of my senior discounts. I welcome them. However, I chose to participate in because I had a way of thinking, how can I help co-create the change, the evolution, revolution? And if I'm going to co-lead it, I'm going to co-lead it as a wise elder. I'm going to co-create it as someone who has life experiences to share that I believe are of value, but more than that, but can teach others. And I can also learn from others. And that's the beauty of being able to work together. It's because I mean, there are some wise young people, and I get concerned about the so-called I don't know, I don't want to say so-called, about the education system and what is unfortunately happening and not happening in the education system. And so you know, for many of many children who could not go to school during COVID, and you know, their moms and their grandparents took care of them, or their grandparents were put away somewhere, and then someone comes in and the whole place is wiped out. So it was very much a responsibility of giving back. You know, when you've received much, much is expected, and it's absolutely about giving back, of serving on a whole nother level to help co-create, I like to say the revolution, but the evolution that we want.
Yes. What do you take an unapologetic stance for in the world?
Unapologetic stands for I am who I be, whether you like it or not. Because I ain't about you liking it or not. I'm about being who I be.
That's being who I be. So if ladies are listening to this and they are loving your vibe as much as I am, and they want to connect with you, Harriet, where is the best places for them to connect with you?
Well, there are a couple of things. I would love to leave a gift. It is called 5 Essential Tools to Lead the Revolution Toward Love, Light, and Liberation. It looks like this. And it really includes, it's a journey. It is about a journey, but there are self-care tools, soul care tools, sacred ritual tools, person-centered art tools. I mean, all of these are tools, and of course guidance tools. And if people, I mean, one of the reasons I appreciate it is it's because it's a journey. So you're always able to question the journey in your business, in your community, in your organization. How are these things showing up? How in what ways are you making the difference in collaboration with to create the world that you want? And so that is one way I like to make this gift available. And of course, my website is The Right Resort, WRIGHT Resort, and email Harriet, like it's spelled there, at The Right Resort. Harriet at THEWRIGHTRESORT.
Oh my goodness, that's a mouthful.
Well, hopefully we'll have notes where it's written for
Yes,
people.
yes, it will all be down in the description. So we'll put all the links down for them. And yeah, I'm going to invite every woman who's listening to this, who's feeling the intuitive nudge to connect with you, to really reach out. Every conversation that I've had the blessing of having with you has been so rich and so beautiful. And thank you for the gift of you, darling. Really, really grateful that you came on here today.
It's just, it's been an adventure.
It always is. It always is.
Appreciate it so much. Thank you for who you are being in this world and the opportunity to share.
Beautiful. Thank you. To all our listeners, wow, thank you so much for joining us again today. I hope that if anything you take from this, that if ever there was a time for us to be authentic, to be unapologetic, this is that time. If ever there was a time for wisdom to come to the foreground, if ever there was a time for us to commit to teaching wisdom, this is that time. And of course, we get to live our legacies unleashed, unlimited, and unapologetic. We'll see you again next week. Have an amazing day further. Cheers. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please share it with others, post about it on social media, or leave a rating and review. To catch all the latest from me, you can follow me on Instagram at The Unapologetic Woman and on LinkedIn at Elle Nagy. And if you're interested in experiencing the Unapologetic Woman Friendwork Soiree, book in for our next open meeting at unapologetic-women.as.me/unapologetic. Thanks again, and I'll see you next week.